Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to Carry the Loads Lessons from the Front, where we're going to learn about life through the eyes of one of our warriors out there from the fields. And today I've got Raley with me, and I'm Todd Boeding, your host. But before we get into Ricky, we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on with Carry the Load. So, as many of you know, if you're new, unless you're new to Carry the Load, right about this time of year we kick off our relays. They start from each coast. They start in Minnesota. They start in the mountain states. Obviously, this year with the COVID mess, we are not able to do things the way we've always done it. So we are doing everything virtually. So under normal circumstances, though, this is what would be happening. On the West Coast relay, we would be in day 8. And today we're going through San Francisco, and right now headed through the Golden Gate National Cemetery. Now, this is, if you've never been to the Golden Gate National Cemetery, it is a beautiful resting place for some of the nation's finest heroes. And it's part of the National Cemetery Administration, which is led by our good friend Randy Reeves, who is the VA Undersecretary for Memorial Affairs. So I want to give a shout out to Mr. Reeves and all the VA as far as their support on what we do. The West Coast Relay today is honoring Marine Major Taj Serene, and he is from nearby Hillsborough, California. And if you have not had an opportunity and you're not familiar with Carry the Load, we encourage you to go to our site, carrytheload.org, and under the events, you're going to find the relays. Each day, we're going to post the hero that we're honoring on that leg of the race. On the East Coast Relay, we're in day 4 and stepping off right now from Chase Bank in Wilmington, Delaware, after having traveled through the city of brotherly love in Philadelphia. Now, Ricky, they call it the city of brotherly love, but the reality is if you play for the Dallas Cowboys or if you're a Dallas Cowboy fan, it's not real brotherly and loving when the Cowboys are there. I just thought I'd throw that out. But I do want to give a shout out to Chase, who is one of our unbelievably great partners. The East Coast Relay today is honoring Marine First Lieutenant Travis Mannion, who is from nearby Doylestown, Pennsylvania. If you're not familiar with Travis Mannion, they too are one of our nonprofit partners, the Travis Mannion Foundation. Great American. And I know you're getting nervous, Ricky. You were Army, and here you got one Marine talking about 2 other Marines today that we're honoring. So, I mean, it's okay. It's okay. We're going to
Well,
give
you guys
your
are
due.
proud and few, right?
That's right. That's right. The few, the proud, the Marines. That was actually one of the things that got me really interested in the Marine Corps. And
marketing. You bought into the marketing.
I bought into the marketing. But we're not here to talk about me. I want to talk about Ricky Raley. I've read up on your story, and you got some really interesting stuff. And by interesting, I don't necessarily mean all good. You have experienced some stuff. And, you know, I'd use another word, except there could be kids, and hopefully there are kids watching this. And I want to be very cognizant of that. But you're from Indiana, which means you're a Hoosier.
That's right.
But are you IU? Are you Notre Dame, or are you Purdue?
Well, so never Purdue. IU
Never
for basketball,
Purdue.
Notre Dame for football.
Okay.
You know, you got to have your balance there, but never Purdue.
Never Purdue. So, are you born and raised in Indiana?
Yes, I'm born and raised in southern Indiana, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, so I live there. Now I live up by Indianapolis, so the capital area. It's where everything happens. Southern Indiana ain't much happening down there, so I come up, join the real people.
Well, you know what? My mother was actually born in Indianapolis, so I've got some Hoosier ties.
There you go.
I've been to the Indianapolis 500, so, you know, I mean, can you make me an honorary guy?
Yeah, why not? I mean, we'll accept anyone.
So, all right, so give everybody a little bit of context. You're born and raised in Indiana, and then all of a sudden one day you just decided to join the military. What prompted that?
You know, I joined the military because my dad was a Marine, or I guess is a Marine, whatever you guys like to say, even though, let's be honest, he was a Marine. Chesty was a Marine. So
you're the guest today. You take it wherever you want to go.
That's right. So, you know, the military I was introduced to it from a kid, and it's just small town values. military was one of those things that it just wasn't automatic for me. So it was just determining which one. And that all fell on the recruiters, which one I liked better than the other. So then I joined. And after that, then I ended up in Iraq in 07, 08. And then in a, IED blast, which gave me a traumatic brain injury, which I have a Purple Heart from. And that is, the small part of a story. And then right after that, then I get in a car accident 5 months, 17 days later and get paralyzed. My wife was 4 months pregnant with our son now. So all that much life was happening to a 23-year-old. And I always say that, I was young and dumb then. At least I'm not young anymore, got out of that part.
So wait a minute. Let me get this straight. You are in Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
You essentially go 2 rounds with not just Tyson, but Tyson and Holyfield, because that's kind of the equivalent of what you dealt with.
Yeah.
Then you come home, and 6 months later, you're riding in another truck,
Mm-hmm.
but a civilian truck. You get into an accident, and at that time, you're paralyzed.
Yeah. So
But
I was paralyzed.
Ricky, you're an infantryman.
You just got to roll with it.
Got to stay away from the vehicles.
Well, I know.
Oh my
So that's the
God.
issue. Like, yeah, vehicles, man. Me and vehicles, we don't work well together. I can drive anything with wheels. That's why I'm on them now. That's why I have wheels now everywhere I go. But yeah, it was a crazy time. And coming home and having it happen that quickly after Iraq, I didn't understand at that time and how the mental health side of things really was playing on me. And then how my car accident and being paralyzed then didn't allow me to focus on what the mental health side, but then, I was focused now on the physical side. And with the physical, being disability now, then I got to focus on that and keep pushing off my mental health and wellness. So it was 7 years before I finally was forced to deal with these invisible wounds and, the burden you carry with you. And you don't even realize that you're carrying, certain things with you throughout life. And you started this, path from very young. Everyone has trauma in their life. Everyone. Your worst trauma and my worst trauma, they're equal, neurobiologically. Our brains have reacted identically at one point. We just created certain pathways to keep us safe. And so with everything that happened to me, it was, I don't know, I just remember waking up underneath the tree being fine with being paralyzed. And
so when you say you were okay, a lot to unpack there. So you say when you woke up under the tree, I'm assuming from the second accident, the accident that left you paralyzed. Which, I mean, to me, in and of itself, there's a lot of trauma there because you're thinking to yourself, wait a minute, I survived an IED in insurgency infested surroundings. I make it out of there. I come home and a flippin' truck accident has me under a tree and I'm looking up going, well, I guess I'm paralyzed. Am I getting that right?
yeah, I mean, and I'm sure there's a lot of shock, but yeah, it was, what can I do about it? Like I can't fret about it. It's not going to make my legs work again by being upset or being mad about it. And I do, I have those days where I am upset or mad about being paralyzed because there's things that are easier when you're walking and able to, but things aren't better just because I could walk. So when I woke up underneath that tree, it was just something new, another challenge I was going to have to face and learn to deal with.
But you knew right away.
But so I remember getting woken up. So the truck flipped quite a few times, landed on me and crushed my back. And when it landed on me, I was face first in the mud. Well, it landed on me, pulled me out and flipped me over on my back. So I was looking up underneath the tree. And actually the EMT on scene was a friend of mine and we went to school together. And I just remember having a conversation with him after, I came to. And after that, I also broke my right arm in half, clean in half that time. So I only woke up with one good appendage.
Oh my
But
God.
when I woke up, he asked me if I could feel my legs and I was like, no, but that's cool. Let's just, was just go on. And then whenever I lifted up my arm, it fell down. Like it just clicked down. I'm like, hey, my arm's broken too. And he's like, stop doing it. Cause I kept lifting it up and I'm like, Chuck, check this out.
You were in shock.
Yeah, in
You had to
shock.
have
And I
been.
also asked him to take me to the bar, but he wouldn't do that and get a beer. Cause I was like, it's my taxi ride. I'm paying for this. Come on, let's go get a beer. And then we go to the hospital.
Okay, so I'm going to come back to that in a minute because you and I talked earlier about the whole aspect of drinking, the
Mm-hmm.
social surroundings, and how you really had to make some adjustments there. But I want to I want to get back to the point where your wife is 4 months pregnant with your child,
Yeah.
and now all of a sudden I mean, she's dealing with her pregnancy. She's looking out for you. I mean, already I can tell your wife is an unbelievable saint. But walk us through that period and the challenges that you face there.
Man, that was something I don't know if anyone could ever prepare me for. First of all, I don't think anyone's ever ready truly to have their first child, right? It comes with
Agreed?
all kinds of crazy things you don't even know, feelings, like emotions and the stress and all that. You don't even know what that's like. But then I had to add on top of, Iraq and getting paralyzed all within, that first year. So it's challenging. I mean, it has made every aspect of that first few years of his life and, our life together, it made it hard because the damage I was doing to them by not dealing with my own issues, I didn't understand at that time. And some things I wish I could ever go back and undo, but you can't, right? So now I have, through my journey thus far, I've learned that it is now my job to do the best I can right now and not worry about what happened in the past because I can't change that. So those
Hmm.
first few months, years, like it was a lot of mistakes were made, a lot of bad days, a lot of negative stuff, but it's fine because, I'm here, my son's here, my wife's here. Like we made it through it. No matter the outcome tomorrow, we still made it through today. So that's something I just have to keep telling myself. And I keep every day, you wake up, you're like, well, I'm here. So whatever happens today, tomorrow it'll be okay.
Well, let's be honest with one another, Ricky. There's no manual for having a kid. There's no manual for being paralyzed. There's no manual for dealing with TBI. I mean, so you got you were dealt what we would, I think, refer to as a crappy hand of cards, but your attitude is awesome. I mean, it's like so many other guys that we know, and y'all obviously feed off one another, and man, I'm impressed from hearing your story, and I appreciate you sharing all that with us. And to that degree, you've experienced you experienced at that time a lot in a very short period of time. Is there one moment from your time in service that really stands out that you carry with you to this day that you use? Maybe the lesson that you pulled out of that is something you're going to use to teach your son about life down the road.
It there are some moments, and one of the major ones is obviously whenever I was born with IED and that whole experience for me, and going through that as I was 22 at that time. So going through that as a young kid still, and knowing how I feel about it now compared to how it was then, I didn't understand the lesson I learned until later. The lesson was I was going through this experience and the other guys in the truck, we were all going through this experience, but neither one of us lived the exact same experience that night, right? We all experienced it on our own. And then that took me to the point to where I had to understand what it was, the experiences of the people who watched it, my brothers in arms who watched this truck get engulfed in a fireball and then not be able to have comms with us. So I had to understand the trauma that it did to them. To sit there
Can
and
you
think you just watch someone that you spent all this time training with, and you know, you guys trust each other with their lives. You just spent that type of love, and now they're gone. So to understand what they were going through, that puts a burden on you once you truly start to understand it, because I feel bad that they had to experience it whenever that wasn't my experience, right? Through the whole thing.
So for the viewers, take us back. What happened? Set the stage there. Are you guys just, are you on a patrol? Are you
Yeah,
escorting
so we're just
convoys?
doing a convoy security mission, and I was a front gun truck driver. So we had a big
Okay.
mine roller on the front. It's called the Sparks. You guys, the Marines actually created it. I don't know why we had to use it, but so it
Every
just
now and then.
detonates like a crush wire or pressure plate ahead of the vehicle to give
Uh-huh.
you more of a chance, you know, to get the blast further away from you,
Okay.
because you know they're very crafty. They found 1,000 different ways to set off an IED, and you have to respect that. Like, they were going to find a way to get you, and we're going to find a way to stop it. So the Sparks set it off. Crush wire rolled over. Crush wire. It was like midnight at that time, and when it hit, you know, I spent at that point, I think it was 8 months in country already, 7 or 8, and so it was night after night, and I'm used to this point, right? So we drive the routes quite often, and it just, next thing you know, you feel the heat, the flash of light, the fire, then your cab fills full of smoke, and then you're checking on each other. And you know, the video game, it felt like that pulsating, you know, so
Right.
slowly things were coming back. And I don't know, it's just still to this day, it's still, there's a lot of things that just seem so surreal about, did that actually happen? And I guess further way it goes, I'm remembering just the highlights of, you know, that event. And it's like, man, that seemed like a whole lifetime ago. Did that actually happen? And so it's one of those that I look at it now from all the angles. But that night I was angry, hurt, you know, like so many different emotions I didn't know how to deal with at that time.
But the interesting thing is, I think, you know, as we've talked about this a couple of times now, both, you know, off air and on, you keep talking about your concern goes to your brothers and what they were watching you experience this. I've not once heard you say the way, I mean, you talked about, you know, after the fact, you know, you felt angry, but you haven't talked about how it made you feel at the time, how you felt at the time. Your concern was for them. Man, they didn't get blown up. You did.
Yeah, but you know,
So,
I went
so
through
help
it,
us
and
understand that.
well, yeah, they didn't get blown up. I did, but then the second I got blown up, after, you know, I knew I was still alive, right? So at that point, my concern was gone for
Okay.
myself. Like, it was, I'm okay, you know, and I checked on the other guys in the truck. We're okay. And at that time, yeah, I mean, I had just anger. Like, I was mad. Like, why'd you guys just blow me up? Like, that's not cool. I thought we were friends, you know, that kind of thing. Like, I was angry. And once I was able to process that anger, it it kind of helps me keep from always being angry at that point. You know, I'm through the boot campaign's health and wellness pipeline, the pipeline that actually has helped me on the journey where I'm at. Part of that was psychotherapy, and that was very opening to me and allowed me to start to process all those emotions and be able to understand these events and how they actually happen, because we build a narrative in our head about things, and they're not always true. They're emotionally driven, they're not factually driven. So
Okay.
it was one of those things that I have to look at the facts and kind of put myself out of the equation so I can process the information.
Did you have any feelings of guilt? And I ask that because if our, I mean, our viewers have not had discussions with guys like you in the past, they wouldn't understand this. But so many people in your situation, even though something happened to you, you feel guilty that it happened, that somebody else got it worse?
Yeah, no, it
Was
definitely
that
would have been. It was a guilt thing. Coming home, I felt guilty. It was
because you weren't still there?
that or dead, right? Like I was young, didn't have a lot of attachments. I felt guilty for the people who weren't coming home to their families, who may have had larger families and responsibilities, kids and wives and husbands. Like that's what I feel guilty for. And I would much rather take that burden on. You know what I mean? Like it's odd. I would rather take that burden on than allow someone else to take that burden on. And so, yeah, there is that sense of guilt to deal with, and to know it's not your fault. You can't do anything to take that burden from someone else because that's not your life's journey.
So how old is your son now?
He is 10.
And is he at the age where you're having those conversations with him? Have you told him about this day? And if
No,
so,
he knows generally because he's heard me tell my story. But there are some things I'm working into talking to him about because just maturity, and I want him to process it all, I hope, appropriately one day. And I hope I'm not holding off on it too long. As a parent, you never know if you're doing it right until, I guess, it's too late.
so what's the lesson that you want him to take away from your experience?
To not shy away from a challenge, to know when you feel like you're at the bottom, that there is a way up, and tomorrow could be brighter. Don't make a whole day bad because of 5-minute event, right? So it's life sucks majority of the time, but that's fine. Life's going to suck. There's going to be things you don't want to do, and that's fine. But guess what? It'll be better later.
Makes you appreciate the good times, huh?
It does, and we're built to survive, not to be happy. Our minds are. We want happiness. We strive for happiness, but that's not how our brains are wired. Our brains are wired to keep us alive at all costs. So whatever that
Absolutely.
means, so I just want hopefully my goal is to make him to be a better man than I'll ever be. That's my end goal, to leave the earth better than I found it.
Well, man, I can tell if he's got you as the primary teacher, which I know he does, he's on a good path. He's on a great path.
I hope so. I appreciate that.
Well, so I want to transition to how you continue to serve. You haven't shied away from service since you got out. You haven't, crawled into a cocoon and said, man, I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm sure you faced some of those challenges, but you've obviously met those challenges and you've come out through the other side and you're doing some work with Boot Campaign. And I want to hear a little bit about your Raley road trip. But first, we're going to, if we can do this well, we're going to watch a little video that you have on the Boot Campaign website.
Okay.
Okay, so I don't know if, by the way, that music is like super cool. Every time I watch that, I kind of felt myself
Yeah, you
ducking
just
and
want to get
dodging to
into
it.
it, right?
I did. So tell me about the the Raley road trip. I can't wait to hear about how you motor that thing. Tell me all
Yeah.
about it.
So the very first one came out after, so I completed the health and wellness pipeline with the boot campaign. And once I kind of felt that other people was able to, like, found a way to process my own stuff and understood what that meant for my life and how I was going to be able to go forward, I
Okay.
knew so many men and women who are going through the same mental health issues I am. And I wanted to be able to find a way to get that word out and promote it the best way I could. So came up with this crazy idea to ride my bike from Ground Zero, New York to Tampa, Florida. And then we done that. We decided to do that in 13 days, which was 1,551 miles in 13 days. So that's 130 miles a day average in August, which was dumb to do it
Oh
in
my
August on the East
God.
Coast.
And you guys call Marines dumb. Come
Yeah, I
on,
know.
man.
Well, we never said we're smart. We just said you guys are dumb.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So 130 miles a day or
Yeah, so that
115 miles a day?
130. Yeah, so it averaged out to be about that. And we had events in that first
Golly.
one. I did it pure keto, which I didn't eat carbs. I ate probably, I think, total of like 50 carbs a day on
Oh
that
my gosh.
because your fat stores could do it. And oh man, they tell me I look like death warmed over at the end of it. I don't I don't know. It was rough. It was brutal. I didn't feel the heat of it until like Savannah. So I actually got a ride on to Hunter Air Base in Fort Stewart down there by Savannah. So I actually got a ride on to base, and I was able to speak to some Rangers there. And it wasn't until that day that I felt like it hit me. It just came up and because you can do anything for 2 weeks, right? Anything,
Sure.
anything. You can do anything. It's only 2 weeks. Well,
Yeah.
it hit
Well,
me.
you guys do boot camp like 2 weeks, don't you?
Yeah, I mean that's all you need to know, right? Which way to put the claymore, and it even tells you on it. I mean, we make it dummy proof.
So, okay. So wait a minute. Let's back up a little bit and let's talk about how, I mean, because what you did was phenomenal. And I would encourage anybody to go out and research that a little bit. But Boot Campaign is one of our fantastic nonprofit partners. Absolutely love everybody in the organization that I've met. Um, I so if to that degree, I'm going to take advantage of my own show here, and I'm going to give a shout out to Shelly Kirkland, and I'm going to give a shout out to Coach Bill Hart. Great people, great people.
Great people.
Tell me how the Boot Campaign, how their program gave you the mental fortitude and preparation to do what you did.
It was the boot campaign's mental health and wellness pipeline. It is a very dynamic approach to treating traumatic brain injuries, PTSD, and all the invisible wounds, the insomnia, the pain, like the chronic pain. We deal with these things and people don't see them, right? As soldiers, as Marines, as airmen, you deal with all this stuff, and people don't understand what you're going through because they can't see physically anything wrong with you. And so because of the
Sure.
wheelchair, I was allowed so much credibility because people gave me empathy or sympathy for that, right? So
Interesting.
their pipeline started to truly look at me as a person, and they go through and do blood work, huge panel of blood, test everything possible. Then you do an assessment from head to toe to figure out what treatment looks like for you, because treatment cannot be cookie cutter. It can't look the same for me and you. Our treatments are not going to be identical, nor they shouldn't be. So they look at that, they do brain mapping. It's all that awesome stuff that we wouldn't get in a VA setting because it's just not feasible
Right.
monetarily for the VA to dish out all this money. And that's no fault to their own. They do the best they can, in my opinion, with what they're given. But
I would agree with that. I would absolutely agree with that.
so to
But
get the
they
best,
can't do it alone, and that's the
no,
point you're making. That's why
yeah,
Boot Campaign and organizations like yours are so important. It's a supplement to the nuts and the bolts that are provided by the VA.
Yeah, exactly. Like my treatment, what I learned is it hasn't stopped. It's ongoing. So going through this with the boot campaign, I went through 8 weeks of psychotherapy because they really realized how messed up I am. Not because military service, just way before that. I'm just a messed up individual.
Well, you were raised by a Marine. I mean, come on.
I know that. I tell him that all the time. Trust me. So, but learning that, and then they did a transcranial direct current simulation where they kind of do the brain mapping, and then they do light shocks to kind of reactivate your any dark spots, and also keep blood flow in your prefrontal cortex. So when you go to therapy, we're not shutting down, we're processing the information that we're having to deal with. So it's a very complex thing on the mental health side. And then I went through the wellness side, and that's in Virginia Beach. And that's where you learn how physical fitness and your routine can make a huge difference in how much pain you feel and how you sleep, the medications you take. So it's that through the boot campaign's partners and the modality of it, like to where they can reach out and find the best partner for you and give you that treatment. They're not locked in like a medical treatment facility. They're locked into what they're designed to do. So, but with boot campaign, they reach out and find the best program for you and help you get that treatment. And by doing that, it allowed me to get the mental health to spend all those hours training on my own. I had to spend all that time in my own head, and then riding my bike through that 13 days suffering. You have to spend a lot of time in your own head. It allowed me the ability to do that and not break down. And the wellness side gave me the physical ability to actually perform what I was trying to do.
So we also talked earlier offline about the social aspect, and you mentioned it a little bit earlier about the drinking side of things. That's a real situation for a lot of veterans to deal with. There's a lot of self-medication. There is a lot of, especially somebody like you who is thrust into the limelight. You're put in social situations where there's a lot of alcohol. Was that all part of the retooling or the recalibrating as well?
Yeah. So when you do the program, you're not supposed to be drinking through the whole program because you need a clear mind, right? And you need to keep it clear. So if you have an addiction issue or something like that, then part of that boot campaign's process is you will have to go through counseling and treatment and be clean for so long before you can start the rest of it. But the social implications of drinking, when you come home, everyone's like, hey man, let me buy you a drink. Hey, and of course you don't want to be rude, so you take it on. But then I had to learn that that's not how I needed to function. There's nothing wrong with having drinks, but I can't function like that because it's not good for me. Because I'm sure, like many other veterans who deal with this, you drink not to feel something, but you don't drink to have feelings. You drink to not have feelings. Right? You drink to numb everything else, or you take medication to numb everything. So I had to learn that it's okay to feel, to experience it. And by going to these events and stuff, still, I don't want to be rude. So I had to learn to carry a cup with me and ice. And that was my drink. So, it was like, oh no, I'm good. So I didn't, not to be rude or anything like that, but I could still be part of events and not make other people feel awkward by me not drinking, because I feel like if I tell people, oh, I'm not drinking, they kind of look at you differently, like, oh, what's going on there? You can't handle your alcohol, or, some narrative I made up in my own head that they're thinking when they probably said,
Right.
okay, that's fine.
Yeah, and we know you're not alone in that front. I mean, there are, and it's not specific to the military, but I think it's probably more
It's
widespread.
accepted. is morally
Yeah, well,
accepted in the military,
yes,
which
and
isn't a good thing.
it's not always a good thing, you know, and because there's some people that just, you know, shouldn't be doing it for any number of reasons. So I'm glad to hear you say that, and I'm glad. I can't tell you how appreciative I am of the fact that you've opened up on some of these things, because our hope in doing these things is for somebody to be out there that stumbles upon this or watches it and identifies with, you know, with your struggles and says, wow, wait a minute, okay, so the boot campaign can help me. So Ricky has a similar story, and that's why we do this. So again, I can't say thank you enough for coming on and sharing your lesson from the front. We're humbled that you would spend your time with us.
No, I appreciate it, and that's all we can do, right? Is share our knowledge. That's it. So, and if that's all I have to do in life is to share my experiences, then every experience I've ever gone through and will go through, because my challenges aren't done. So I'm not afraid that if I can learn from each one of them and share my knowledge after, then it's all worth it. So I'm
Well,
appreciative to be on here.
thank you. Well, as you know, with Carry the Load, one of the things that's you know, that we are very we want to make sure people understand who they're carrying. So, would you mind sharing with us who you are carrying this season?
Yeah, who I carry and who I always carry are all the men and women who've lost their lives because of their service. And that's all the veteran suicide issues or drug overdoses. They've lost their lives or taken their lives because of their service, not during their service, but because of the burdens of war. They have taken their lives. And those are the people I want to keep out there and keep on people's minds, because I don't want to keep losing people to the burdens of war. And because of their service, I always want to carry them with me, and I want other people to know I'm here to shoulder that burden with them. So,
Well, we're in similar company this year, soldier, because I'm doing the same thing, and this year I'm carrying my mother-in-law's father, who succumbed to his own psychological issues after World War II. So thank you for sharing that with me.
no,
So,
thank you.
Ricky, thanks, man. Again, I can't tell you enough how much we appreciate it. And for everyone out there watching, tomorrow's Friday, so please remember to wear red, because we want to make sure that we're keeping everybody in our hearts who is still deployed. For those of you who aren't aware, red stands for Remember Everyone Deployed. It'll be Friday, wear red. I'd also like to give a shout out to the members of the American Legion Post 223 in Shippensburg, Pennsylvania, for their service to our nation. And to that point, my name is Todd Boeding. I'm carrying Sergeant R.E. Worley of Shippensburg, Pennsylvania. Who are you carrying?